Hey familia, Miranda here, and in today's video, I'm going to be taking on yet another challenge. So, Tim Talks Talkies, you guys, he put out a challenge to compile a list of our top 25 favorite films from the 80s. A few months back, he did the 90s, and I had a lot of fun with that one. That 90s was honestly definitely way more harder for me to do since I grew up in the 90s. But the 80s is also full of some bangers, you guys, so it was a little hard. I kept kind of switching things out, but I'm pretty confident about my list right now. I will leave a link to the video where he addressed the challenge if you guys are interested in submitting your own list to him. It has all the information there, and it will be in the description box below. But I would also love to know your guys' top 25 films from the 80s, so feel free to leave those in the comments. So yeah, you guys, the 80s, I mean, what a great decade. 80s and 90s are like seriously the two best decades for movies in my opinion. I will say I have missed out on quite a bit from the 80s for the simple fact that I am a 90s kid and I grew up watching mostly, 90s movies, but there are, obviously some 80s flicks that I did watch and stuff, and even things like later in life and stuff. But anywho, you guys, so the way I kind of take on this challenge is basically what was I watching as a kid, the most. These aren't necessarily going to be, the best in like cinematography or like directing or acting or whatever. These are just honestly like my favorites, my personal favorites. And these lists can obviously change, you guys. It just kind of really depends on one's mood at the time, likes at the time and stuff. So, keep that in mind. But like I said, I'm pretty solid on my list. So let's go on ahead and get into it. I am going to start off as always with some honorable mentions. All right, so I have 5 honorable mentions here. The first one is actually the only animated film that I would have even considered including in the list. I mean, I watched a ton of like cartoon movies growing up. Could have easily made a list for the 80s or for the 90s of just cartoon movies. But this one, for some reason, just really stuck with me over the years. And that is The Secret of NIMH. This one, you guys, honestly, I don't even know why I watched this so much when honestly, I was kind of creeped out very much by this film. The whole kind of like rat dude that's like trying to attack Mrs. Brisby, and even the Grand Owl or the Great Owl, whatever, he was like terrifying, you guys. There's definitely some creepy, dark elements to this film, and for whatever reason, it just kind of stuck with me over the years. And even just being creeped out by this, I have no idea why I watched it so much, but I did. But yeah, it's really good, you guys. It's just, like I said, it has some, it's weird and it's creepy. My second honorable mention is Uncle Buck. This one, I mean, I love John Candy in this. He's absolutely hilarious. I watched this a ton growing up. It's one of the films of his that I remember just constantly watching. I did recently revisit it, and I didn't exactly find it as funny as when I was a kid. Like, seriously, when I was a kid, I remember watching with my family and we would all just be laughing our butts off. I mean, it's a great movie. There's some just really good messages in this film, and just even the comedy in this is just, it's funny for what it was back in the day. It's a great film. My third honorable mention is The Shining. I know this is probably on a lot of people's list, and don't get me wrong, I think that this is just a perfect film. Like, the way this story unravels in this is just absolutely perfect, and Jack Nicholson's performance in this is outstanding. I love it, you guys. But I didn't watch this one actually until like later on in life. Actually, fairly recently, like a few years ago, is when I watched it for the first time. And I get the love for it. I get the hype about it. It's just, I don't hold that connection to it, but it's a perfect film in my opinion. And I mean, it was close to making my top 25. All right, my fourth honorable mention, kind of the same deal as The Shining. We have The Breakfast Club, you guys. This one too is a fantastic film. It's so highly relatable, and there's just some great messages in here and stuff. But again, it's not one that I watched until like maybe a couple years ago for the first time. I mean, I really don't remember watching it as a kid. So that's why I say it's kind of just one that I recently watched. But it is fantastic, you guys, and very well could have been part of my top 25. All right, and my last honorable mention is Born in East LA. This movie is ridiculous. It's hilarious, and you gotta love Cheech Marin. This is just a fun role from him, and yeah, I just remember constantly watching this one as a kid. It was always one of my favorites growing up, so very well could have easily been part of my top 25. All right, so now getting into the real list. So coming in at number 25, we have Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I had to include this one, you guys, because this is actually one that I watched way later in life, like maybe a few years ago, and I enjoyed the heck out of this, and I have seen it several times since my first watch. It is just so ridiculous, but it's so fun and just so dumb. Like, what's not to love about this film, you guys? So yeah, I immediately just kind of fell in love with this one, and so I had to include it as part of my top 25. All right, coming in at number 24, we have the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Actually, you guys, I really could have kind of swapped this out with Dream Warriors. Honestly, the best two in the franchise, but I was terrified of Freddy as a kid, for sure. Like all of the horror characters and stuff. But I don't know, I just always found Freddy to be so unique. For the simple fact of like killing people like through their dreams and stuff, it's just wild and it's just so different. I mean, this isn't, Jason, with a machete or Michael with like a butcher's knife or whatever. No, this is this crazy, nasty looking dude with these, knife fingers, whatever you want to call them. It's so different, so unique. And so that's why I've just always been a fan of Freddy. He's always been one of my favorites. So definitely had to include the first Nightmare on Elm Street. All right, coming in at number 23 is the film here, Stand and Deliver. This is such a great film, very inspirational about this. Edward James Olmos plays this teacher, and he's teaching a bunch of like misfit kids and stuff who, obviously the school district thinks that they're not going nowhere, they have no potential, nothing like that. But he ends up teaching them calculus, which is obviously, as we all know, like the hardest math possible. I know I never took calculus. I hate math, you guys, but this film is just so freaking awesome, so inspiring, and how they basically kind of prove everybody wrong. And, because of that, them being taught so good how to do calculus, they even had to like retake the test and everything because they thought that they were cheating and all that. But it is such a great film, you guys. Edward James Olmos is great in this. Lou Diamond Phillips is great in this. It's just fantastic. I remember watching it in like middle school and even in high school in math class. And so yeah, I love it, you guys. All right, so coming in at number 22, we do have a Jumpin' Jack Flash. This is honestly one of my favorite Whoopi Goldberg films. Her role in this is just absolutely hilarious. She's so good. I don't think that anybody else could have pulled off the role that she did in this film. And it is just such a ridiculous, it's kind of cheesy film, but it has a lot of heart. There's, some action. There's plenty of comedy coming from Whoopi. And yeah, there's even just a little bit of a romance, even if it is like through the computer or whatever. But it is just such a great film. And I feel like this one is kind of a bit forgotten because you don't really hear too many people talk about it anymore. But definitely one of Whoopi's great performances, hilarious performances. So yeah, I had to have Jumpin' Jack Flash on here. So number 21 is Kickboxer. I freaking love this one, you guys. Van Damme, he definitely has some bangers over the years, but Kickboxer is definitely one of my top favorite films of his, and I love the storyline in this one. It's a nice kind of little like revenge flick, and just the whole, obviously the kickboxing and stuff that's going on here, all the fight scenes, everything is pretty dang awesome, so definitely had to include Kickboxer. So coming in at number 20, we have Glory. This is one of my all-time favorite war films. It is a very great, very inspiring true story about the 1st Black Regiment to fight in the Civil War. And yeah, I remember like the first time I watched this was in social studies class back in middle school. I forget if it was like 7th or 8th grade. But I don't know, I just like immediately fell in love with this film, and it has just kind of stuck with me over the years, and I have watched it several times, and yeah, I can easily say that it is one of my favorite war films. You have an amazing cast, just amazing performances all throughout, but Matthew Broderick in this is amazing, Morgan Freeman, and especially Denzel. They're just all fantastic, you guys. So I definitely want to include Glory on my list. All right, so number 19, we have Scarface. Now, what's not to love about this film? It's highly quotable. It is just action-packed, and it is just an awesome, awesome gangster flick. So I just had to include this one, you guys. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, so coming in at number 18, we have The Never-Ending Story. It's just a classic, beautiful film, just full of fantasy elements and stuff. And it's definitely a fun one. It's not like super great, but I grew up on this one, have a love for it. So I definitely wanted to include The Never-Ending Story. So number 17, we have Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Constantly watched this one growing up. What's not to love about it? like all of the characters in here are super fun, you know, and especially, you know, Roger Rabbit with, you know, Jessica Rabbit, you know. You know, it's a kind of interesting little relationship. But yeah, I mean, the mix of animation with like real world, I think, is very well done in this, and it's just loads of fun, you guys. It's a super fun watch. All right, so at number 16, we have the first Batman here. I mean, perfection, you guys. Michael Keaton as Batman, Jack Nicholson as a Joker. I mean, you can't go wrong. Like, what's not to love about that combination there? I watched all of these like constantly as a kid with my brother, and so yeah, I do remember always enjoying these. It's been actually a long time since I've seen these, so I definitely need to revisit them. I probably will with my son because I know he likes these films as well. But yeah, I definitely had to include Batman on the list. All right, so in the number 15 spot, we have the first Terminator film. Now, Arnold, he had a couple films before the Terminator, but I definitely think that the Terminator is what totally just kicked off his career. I saw the Terminator in theaters. So yeah, they must have been like replaying it in theaters like back in the 90s or something, because I clearly remember seeing this in theaters. I mean, even though it came out in the 80s and I was born in the 90s, yeah. Because I remember seeing this one, the second and the third one, all three of them in theaters with my dad. So yeah, I just remember seeing this, you know, on the big screen, and it just being such an awesome experience. So definitely one of Arnold's most iconic roles, and it's just freaking awesome, you guys. Like, what's not to love about the Terminator? All right, so coming in at number 14, we have The Princess Bride. This one too, I always constantly watch this, and I mean, the title of it, you'd think it's obviously about basically the princess, but there's so much more to this film to love. There's just a lot more going on. I mean, you have some very iconic characters. I mean, you had Andre the Giant in this, which was freaking awesome. But you know, you have a little bit of action, you know, here and there. You also have obviously the love story and everything going on. It is just a fantastic, super great film, you guys. And it's just one that over the years has stuck with me, and I really don't mind rewatching it, you know, all the time. So definitely love The Princess Bride. All right, so number 13, you guys, we have Back to the Future. I know, you guys, it's not higher up on my list, which I'm sure this has been a lot of people's like number ones, or at least in their top 5, top 10. But you guys, this is a film, I mean, the whole Back to the Future series is freaking awesome. It's honestly a perfect franchise. It does not need to be touched, especially, I mean, just even the first film, you guys. It does not need to be remade or anything, because this film, the entire franchise, is truly just perfection, you guys. What is not to love about Back to the Future, right? But I just happened to watch these so much later in life that I mean, I love the films, you guys. I really do. I think they're just fantastic. But I guess I just don't hold that same connection that a lot of people do that actually grew up watching them. So that's why it's a little bit lower down in my list. But I mean, maybe had I have watched these actually growing up, they'd be much more way up there on my list. But nonetheless, it's still part of my top 25. Had to include it because they are great. They're so highly rewatchable. I actually just revisited them not too long ago, and it was honestly just an amazing experience to watch them again. So we got Back to the Future. All right, coming in at number 12, we have Gremlins. I mean, classic. It's a lot of fun, you guys, and it's just a fun ride for sure. And what's not to love about Gizmo? All right, so number 11, we have Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Always been a huge fan of this little film franchise. I enjoy the other ones as well, but Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, it's one that I constantly watched growing up. I think this was one of the ones that we had taped on one of the VHS with like multiple other movies and stuff. But it is just a fun concept. I mean, basically, you know, the dad shrinking his kids and stuff. And yeah, I mean, what's not to love about this film? It's super fun. And it's just a cool little concept of a film. All right, getting into my top 10. So we do have Ghostbusters, of course, the first one. Classic. I mean, not much else to be said on that. All right, so number 9, we have E.T. Another great classic, you guys. This one, I will honestly say, I was a little kind of freaked out by it as a kid, but then I kind of grew to love it more. I don't know, just, you know, E.T., he was just a little creepy to me, but yeah, it's a great film, very heartfelt film, and great little family flick. And so yeah, I remember just always watching this one. All right, coming in at number 8, we have 16 Candles. Oh my gosh, just another great classic, you guys. It's a great kind of little teenage rom-com, coming of age sort of film. And I've just always been a fan of it. And it's just one of those films that, like as a girl who, likes the popular guy at school, it's just a film that kind of gives you hope, at least, gives the girl hope anyways, that, Mr. Popular could very well be interested in you too or whatever. But yeah, it's fun, you guys. I've already watched this film like 3 times this year, so but I love it, you guys. So definitely had to be part of at least my top 10 for sure, because I love this one. It's just highly rewatchable, highly quotable. I totally forgot about the booby close-up, you guys. I actually was watching this the other day, and my kiddos, like my 2 oldest, they actually watched the movie with me, but I totally forgot about that. And so that was kind of an interesting situation there. But yeah, so that's kind of odd. For this being a PG flick, I feel like this should at least be PG-13, considering all the language in here and then the booby scene. But yeah, nonetheless though, I love this film, you guys, and Molly Ringwald, and she's just amazing in here, you guys. I adore her in this film, and it's just super great. All right, number 7, we have Ferris Bueller's Day Off. This one too, I remember always watching as a kid, and to this day, it has held up beautifully. I actually revisited it not too long ago, and man, it seriously holds up. Like, it is just so relatable, like, just wanting to take a day off from school, play hooky, and he goes on just some crazy, wild adventure with his friend and his girlfriend and stuff, and they just kind of go through a lot all in one day, which is crazy, but it is so relatable. I mean, I didn't start playing hooky until I was like my senior year of high school, but I was kind of hooked on it, and so I kind of took some days for myself, quite often, and, then him, trying to, fake being sick and all that. And I mean, I never really had to fake it. I pretend to go to school, and then I actually wouldn't go, and me and the friends would hang out, or, like boyfriend at the time, we would hang out or whatever. But yeah, man, it's just so relatable, you guys. I mean, everybody wants to, take a day off from school, for sure. But maybe not to that extent, but for sure, when I was in high school, I remember, because the school would always call, at a certain time of day when if you were absent or whatever from your classes. And so I always had to make sure that I grab my dad's phone and be like there when the call came in or whatever and stuff. So that was how I kind of, slid by, not getting caught or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's always fun. So to take a day off from school. We all need it. All right, so number 6, we have La Bamba. You guys, I'm so freaking excited for the Criterion coming out. I already have it pre-ordered, but I have always been a fan of La Bamba. Lou Diamond Phillips in this, his performance is just outstanding. Like, I honestly don't think that anybody else could have pulled off playing Richie Valens than Lou Diamond Phillips. He was just perfect for the role. The music in this, you guys, obviously, like, what's not to love about it? It's just so catchy, and you just always find yourself, singing along with the songs. Like, even after watching this, the songs just kind of stick with you for days and stuff, and they're just kind of find yourself, singing and whatnot to it. But yes, La Bamba, you guys, it's a fantastic story about Richie Valens, and I absolutely love the film. I never ever get tired of watching it. So yeah, I cannot wait for that Criterion. Stoked to see what it's gonna look like. All right, so getting into the top 5, you guys. Y'all are probably gonna get sick and tired of me talking about this film, but I just love this film that much that I need to stress how great of a film it is. But again, The Purple People Eater. Long forgotten. No Patrick Harris, super young in this. I mean, yeah, you got Shelley Winters and Ned Beatty in here as well. But it is just a fun concept of a film. This purple alien dude coming down from outer space makes friends with these like neighborhood kids, and they put a rock and roll band together. So it is, you guys. There's just a lot of heart to this film. There's definitely, some sentimental moments and stuff in here, but I just I don't know what it is about this film that I freaking love so much. And I constantly watched it as a kid, like seriously on repeat. I would just play it, rewind the tape, and play it again and again and again. So, yeah, I wish more people knew about this, but it seems like a lot of people don't or have just forgotten about it. But Purple People, you guys, definitely, if you've never seen it, at least give it a watch. I seriously think it's some fun time, and there's just some really great music in here. All right, so number 4, we have Weird Science. I've always loved this one, you guys. It is just so funny. These two, like, computer whiz kids putting together this, you know, dream girl, you know, by ways of computer and stuff. So it is just a blast, you guys. And yeah, I mean, I seriously love this one, and I constantly watched it growing up. Number 3, another classic here, Beetlejuice. Again, this is one, it's a great family flick, you guys. And I remember us always watching it when I was younger. And yeah, I love the whole concept of this film. Beetlejuice, he's just a very interesting character and stuff. So had to have this one in my at least top 5. But yeah, this is coming in at number 3, you guys. Beetlejuice, I absolutely love it. All right, number 2. This one, I'm actually surprised to see that this wasn't really on anybody's list. I would have expected to see this film on way more people's lists, but the only person to actually show this film was Delon Movies. And so I was happy to see it on his list. But yeah, you guys, this is my number 2 that I just always remember watching this one. It's one that, you know, like with my siblings, we would watch it a lot. And that is Stand By Me. I'm just so shocked that this wasn't on more people's lists. But it is a great film, you guys. There's just a lot going for this film about these friends that they kind of just go on this adventure to find this dead body. And I mean, you know, back in the day, you know, especially when you don't grow up with like a lot of money or whatever, you got all these kids, they're coming from all walks of life and stuff, and, you know, just wanting to do something, you know. Just as a kid, you know, you kind of just have to, you know, find ways to come up with your own adventures and stuff. And especially when you're like money limited or whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's what they're doing. They're just pulling together all their change to see what they can get to eat and drink and stuff, to go on this adventure and whatnot. And, you know, say they're sleeping over at each other's houses and stuff. So, I mean, it just really, for some reason, just really connected with me as a kid. And I've just always had a huge love for this film. I don't know, it's just a film that holds a special place in my heart, and I just have a huge love for it, and just reminds me a lot of like my childhood. So maybe that's why I just kind of connect a lot with this film. All right, so my number 1, you guys, if you've been with me for a minute, then you know. But we have The Goonies, you guys. Yes. And I don't know, maybe part of it is that I actually do live here in Oregon, and I'm not too far from where this movie was filmed. I don't know. But this film, you guys, it is just such a beautiful film, so full of heart, and it is just a beautiful story of these kids who are, you know, it's like their last day together because their whole neighborhood is being turned into like a country club, and so they go on this one last adventure to find this treasure that's supposedly hidden out there and stuff. And I mean, they're just all so different from each other, but they have just this kind of awesome friendship and stuff. And I mean, the whole adventure, everything it takes, and, you know, going through the bad guys that are fratellis and stuff, and finding Sloth along the way. And then, of course, you have like the jocks that are in here, the mean jocks and stuff. And I mean, everybody just plays their part, and it is just such an amazing film, you guys. And just how they work together, and just this one last adventure. You know, so, I mean, that's kind of, you know, when you have this special group of friends and you're able to go on this adventure together, I just think it's really awesome. It just makes you, after watching this film, actually yourself want to go on a little adventure, whether it's in your backyard or at the park or wherever. But, I mean, I just hold so many, like, good memories from this film, and it really helping make my childhood and, like, all the adventures that I personally went on and stuff. So, yeah. Goonies is definitely my number 1 forever, for sure. So those are my top 25 of the 80s, you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my list. Again, let me know in the comments below what is your guys' top 25 or even your top 10, top 5, whatever you want to share. And again, I will also leave Tim's channel information, the information to the video that he posted about the challenge in the description box below for you guys to go check out if you want to submit your own list to him. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the family if you have not, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.